Something unexpected is happening in Cleveland. Just when you think the franchise has settled into its next chapter, a twist emerges that could change everything. It's one of those moments where you stop, shake your head, and wonder, are we really going through this again? But this time it's not just about tactics. It's about identity, legacy, and perhaps even redemption. Let's analyze what's really happening behind the scenes, because if everything unfolds as it seems, it could reshape the future of this team in a way no one expected. But first, don't forget to click the like button so you don't miss any updates. The Cleveland Browns may be eyeing one of the most electric and unconventional coaching possibilities in the NFL, Deion Sanders. With Mike McDaniel officially withdrawing from the Browns head coach search and John Harbaugh not making it into the building, the Browns now face a tough situation with the Rooney Rule still in effect. They need to interview at least one more minority candidate in person, and suddenly, a name that once seemed far-fetched has become a real contender: Coach Prime. Why would Deion Sanders even consider this? Well, here's the scenario. The Browns are not in a favorable spot right now. It's become obvious to most candidates that this job might already be informally decided, or at the very least, not worth the trip, especially for minority coaches who feel they're being used just to satisfy a quota. But there's one person who might actually have a reason to make the trip to Cleveland: a father. Shedeur Sanders is in Cleveland, and this creates a unique dynamic. If Deion were to come just to see his son and fulfill the Rooney Rule requirement for the Browns, it would kill two birds with one stone: family time and a professional opportunity. And here's the twist. Jimmy Haslam, the Browns owner, is known for his impulsive decisions. He's not exactly revered for calculated moves. He's the kind of owner who brought in Deshaun Watson on a fully guaranteed $200 million contract. He goes for flashy headlines, not long-term blueprints. If Deion Sanders enters that building for an interview, and if he manages to charm everyone like he always does, is it really out of the question that Haslam could be swayed? Could he suddenly envision a media-frenzied, ratings-driven season with Deion coaching his son Shedeur in Cleveland? You know the answer. With the Browns, anything is possible. It sounds like fantasy football, but this is the reality of where the Browns are in their coaching search. With Deion, you get the narrative. You get the father-son duo. You get headlines. You get national attention. And for a team that has floundered for relevance outside of 2020, this might be too tempting for Haslam to pass up. The problem is, this wouldn't necessarily be a sound football decision. The NFL is not college football. At Colorado, Deion's first season without Shedeur ended 3-0, and while Shedeur was setting school records with 37 touchdowns and leading the FBS in completion percentage, they still couldn't win a bowl game. The jump to the pros is steep, and no amount of charisma can shortcut experience. But with the Browns failing to bring in their top coaching targets and needing to fill out the process, this may become more than just a hypothetical. Even if Deion is brought in just to fulfill the Rooney Rule, it opens the door. And with Haslam's track record, that door can swing wide open without warning. While all this brews behind the scenes, Baker Mayfield has ignited a firestorm of his own. Taking to social media, Baker didn't hold back in calling out Kevin Stefanski, saying he was shipped off like a piece of garbage, and still hadn't received a call or text from his former coach. That tweet isn't just a jab, it's a spotlight on what many Browns fans already suspected. There was a serious rift between Stefanski and Baker that was never properly addressed. And looking at Baker's performance post-Cleveland, you start to wonder if he was right all along. With the Buccaneers, Baker has averaged better passing yards, improved touchdown-to-interception ratios, and higher quarterback ratings than his time with the Browns. His completion percentage has gone up, and he looks more like the guy we saw in that 20-20 playoff run. Let's not forget, that win in Pittsburgh, arguably the biggest moment for this franchise in decades, came without Stefanski even on the sideline. So, who really deserves the blame? Stefanski's offense since Baker left has been among the worst in the league. Deshaun Watson was a top-5 quarterback before coming to Cleveland. Under Stefanski, he looked like a shell of himself. This isn't just about Baker anymore. This is about a pattern. Stefanski doesn't adapt to his quarterbacks. Whether it was the 3 tight end heavy scheme that didn't suit Baker or the conservative play calling that's held back Shedeur Sanders, the result is the same. Quarterbacks aren't thriving here, and that brings us full circle. What if Stefanski's conservative approach is the reason Shedeur hasn't been able to fully show what he can do? His best plays come off script, throwing deep, making aggressive reads, none of which fit Stefanski's vanilla system. And let's not overlook how clear it was that Shedeur and Stefanski didn't gel. In interviews, Shedeur was cold, saying, "Yeah, it's my coach, we're growing." That's not chemistry, that's obligation. So Browns fans, what do you think? Should the Browns seriously consider Deion Sanders as their next head coach, or would this be another desperate gamble by ownership? Let me know what you have to say about this, because if Deion actually steps into that interview room, there's no telling what could happen. We've seen Haslam be swayed before. Flash back to the Deshaun Watson trade. No other team was willing to go all in with a fully guaranteed deal. Haslam did it because it made headlines. He wanted to win the press conference. Deion Sanders as head coach. That's the kind of headline he dreams about. And pair that with Shedeur Sanders at quarterback, it's a marketing dream. It's the kind of move that gets the Browns on primetime, regardless of their record. It might not make the team better, but it makes them a story. And for Jimmy Haslam, that might be all that matters. But let's not act like there aren't real consequences to this kind of decision-making. If the Browns do hire Deion, it could mean they're turning the keys over to a completely unproven NFL coach, just because of the narrative. This is a team that still has elite talent on defense, an aging offensive line, and a desperate need to figure out its quarterback situation. That's not exactly the ideal landing spot for a coach who's still getting his feet wet in college. Remember, Deion didn't win a bowl game at Colorado. His team struggled in a weak Pac-12. This isn't a ready-made Super Bowl roster. This is a fragile team that could spiral if this gamble doesn't pay off quickly. Meanwhile, Kevin Stefanski's departure, if that's what's happening, has left a trail of broken quarterback relationships behind. Baker Mayfield's parting shot isn't just about hurt feelings, it's a revealing look at the dysfunction inside the Browns facility. Baker didn't just get replaced, he got ghosted. No text, no call, no acknowledgement. And he wasn't some random journeyman. He was the first overall pick, the guy who took Cleveland to its first playoff win in forever. If that's how a franchise quarterback is treated, what does that say about the culture? Now let's look at the numbers again. Baker with the Browns, 6,573 yards, 30 touchdowns. Baker with the Bucks, over 12,000 yards, 51 touchdowns. It's not even close. His completion percentage, quarterback rating, everything's better. Stefanski wanted a quarterback to fit his system, not a system that fits the quarterback. And that's exactly why it hasn't worked with Deshaun Watson, and why it didn't work with Dillon Gabriel, and why it won't work with Shedeur Sanders, unless something changes drastically. That's where the Sanders dynamic comes back in. If the Browns were to pull the trigger on Deion, it might be the only way they fully commit to Shedeur as the franchise quarterback. It wouldn't be about just grooming him. It would be about building everything around him. No more Gabriel splitting reps, no more conservative schemes. It would be a full reset, a new identity, a new era. But again, this is all if Deion even agrees to interview. Right now, the Rooney Rule might force the Browns' hand, but Deion doesn't need this job. He's already the center of attention in college football. If he takes the meeting, it's probably for Shedeur. And that's what makes this situation so fascinating. It's not about Deion needing the Browns, it's about the Browns needing someone, anyone, to fill a void. And maybe, just maybe, it turns into something real. And that takes us to the deeper issue here. Baker Mayfield's exit was a warning. It was a sign of a coach and front office not aligned with their players. And now the same mistakes are being made. If the Browns don't correct this soon, they'll waste another generation of talent. Baker, for all his flaws, had the fire, the toughness, the belief. That 2020 season was electric. That playoff win over Pittsburgh, that was magic. And Stefanski wasn't even on the sideline for it. Yet somehow he survived longer than the quarterback who delivered it. Shedeur Sanders has shown flashes of that same magic. Big throws, out-of-structure playmaking, confidence. But he's being held back by the same rigid offensive mindset that failed Baker. You can't turn these guys into check-down robots. You have to let them be themselves. And Stefanski clearly hasn't figured out how to do that. So if you're the Browns, what's your move? Do you keep chasing names that have already told you no? Do you settle for someone just to meet a requirement, or do you take a wild swing, Deion Sanders, and try to rewrite your identity overnight? That's the question facing Jimmy Haslam right now. And if history tells us anything, he's not afraid of the wild swing. But wild swings come with wild outcomes. You either hit it out of the park, or you strike out and set the franchise back another 5 years. So Browns fans, you've heard the whole thing. Deion Sanders potentially in the mix. Baker Mayfield calling out Kevin Stefanski. Shedeur Sanders caught in the middle. This team is at a crossroads, and the next move might define the next decade of football in Cleveland. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and if you want breaking Browns news first, right when it drops, you're in the right place. And don't go anywhere. Click the video on the screen right now for even more Browns coverage. We've got everything you need, right here, every day.